And we're live here at my place I like to work, Ambassador's Cigar Club in Troy. Come stop by if you're in Michigan. You'll love it. All right, having a little afternoon one of these. Got to do that to keep it going. And getting on video. Of course, I forgot my video stand, so I have a stack of books in the library here, and and I have a makeshift stand, so hopefully it won't fall down. Okay, so women are all the same, except when they're not. All right, so let's talk about this. It is conversation. So I haven't done a video in about a week because I went to visit Poland. I had a great visit. I was there on military business and had a lot of work time, but as well as leisure time. I mean, I was in Poland, so I chose to forgo sleep for a week and just, experience the culture and everything else that was around me. And I literally had the best trip of my life, to be honest. Polish people are great. Both males and females are, we're awesome. And so I had an opportunity to observe, though, a lot of the culture. So given what I do here with relationships and being a relationship and dating coach, and I like to observe what's going on around me. I observe the dynamics between males and females, and I got to experience a lot of those dynamics as well. I interacted with quite a few females there. It's just a consequence, of course, of being out in town and being social, right? And then I was having an interesting discussion about that in a business group I'm in. In fact, I'll plug it. It's called Entrepreneurs in Cars. Richard Cooper runs the group. He is, in my opinion, an entrepreneur and business icon, in my opinion. He's very successful with what he does, and the group has a lot of high-level men in there. It's a men's group chasing excellence, so it's a pay to get in group. So go over there and pay, and then you can interact with me, on the forum and stuff like that. It'll be quite some time given my schedule with other things before I have my own group, and even when I have one, it won't be as entrepreneurially focused. It'll be focused on the topics that I focus on here on my business page and on my YouTube channel, right? So anyway, back into it. So there's a lot of I'd hear guys say, well, remember, women are all the same. Women are all the same. It doesn't matter what country they're in, But then it would be followed up with an explanation as to why women in Poland were so different than women from the U.S. And so, wait a second. I thought they were all the same. So what are we talking about here? So the both statements are right. Okay. So there's parts where women are all the same, and there's parts where women can be different. Same goes for guys. So let's unpack all that stuff. I hope my female audience pays close attention to this video too. It's really not just for guys to figure out how to pick women up. This is for women too, to learn how to find a man that they would like, and also to learn how to behave. And put it this way: if you want something, if you want a guy in your life that's worth a shit, you have to work on yourself and be the person who's deserving of that. Okay? And a lot of the females that I coach, that's what we're working on. We're working on, same with guys, we're working on being better versions of ourselves, so we show up to that date and those subsequent dates, and then that relationship is being the best person we can be. It's not about being somebody other than yourself. You want to be who you are, but do you want to be like the shitty, complaining, bad mood version of you all the time, or do you want to be the person who's chasing excellence and manages their emotional state and is pleasant to be around, right? I mean, and it's just a simple equation, okay? But getting into it, so no, women are not all the same, even culturally, okay? They're really not, but their nature is the same. So your hindbrain biological drive is going to be, for the most part, there's universal truths in how men are wired and our mating strategy and how females are wired, and female mating strategy. Those are universal drivers, okay? They're pretty universal. You might have anomalies here and there, but those are things that will be the same. So you will see a lot of similar behaviors amongst women or men in various cultures. So let's kind of look into that. So hindbrain stuff, for example, a hindbrain drive for a guy is to spread seed, all right? Every guy wants to spread seed. Every guy scans their environment and they see females as seed spreading opportunities. Don't think, ladies, that your man who is very committed to you and loves you is any different in that hindbrain drive. That doesn't mean he's going to go fuck all these women if they would allow it. It just means that, the drive is there. The primitive drive is there. When men assess, and I have to get the resource from this. I heard this one from, I think it was Rollo Tomasi's mentioned it in some of his stuff. And check him out too over at Rational Male. Mentioned that, and I don't know where the source is on it, because I like to source check, so I have to check that, but I'll believe him because he's pretty well researched. He says that when men see women, they process, they when they look at a woman and the processing of what they see involves the same parts of the brain that is involved when processing or assessing tools for tool use. All right, so there's a utilitarian aspect when men look at, I would say probably men or women too, because even assessing a guy, can I beat his ass, or what's his body posture, what's he doing? There's sort of a utilitarian aspect that guys tap into when they're assessing a human being, particularly a woman. Okay, is she good breeding stock, basically, is what the brain's saying. And that doesn't mean that he looks at a female and realizes that she's attractive. That doesn't mean he's going to jump her bones. It doesn't mean that he's even, emotionally or sexually registering that attractiveness, but he definitely does assess her mateability. That is a hindbrain drive. He can't help it, okay? Just what he does. And the drive to spread seed for a man, absolutely there. Now, does that mean that all men are going to just spread seed indiscriminately? Well, of course not. Just because the drive is there, that doesn't mean they all do it. So a guy who's happy in his marriage or relationship or whatever it may be, and he's crazy about the chick he's with, that doesn't mean that if he's in a situation and some younger, pretty chick throws herself at him, that doesn't mean he's just going to have sex with her. He may have a hindbrain drive to have sex with her, but that doesn't mean that he's going to do it. Do you know what I mean? So there's other systems at work in your brain that means you don't fall victim to what your hindbrain drivers are. The hindbrain drives are universal for sure. Some guys will end up banging that 20-year-old secretary even though he's happily married, because he doesn't have the barriers up and he doesn't have the value system. He doesn't have the assessment of long-term consequence and a number of things he's maybe missing in the other parts of his brain that doesn't allow him to say no to that driver, you see. And so he ends up falling into cheating on his girl or wife or whatever with the secretary, and then of course all kinds of problems in his life ensue because she's probably, borderline personality disorder and all that stuff, and maybe Me Too's him or takes him out, some way, shape, or form, and his marriage breaks up. I mean, it could lead to a whole lot of shit, right? Whereas another guy maybe has that understanding of long-term consequence, has a set of value systems, means what he says. And so even though, excuse me, that hindbrain drive says, oh yeah, bang this girl, that doesn't mean he's going to do it. You know what I mean? He says no, puts the barrier up, puts all that energy into his girl at home, gives her the best sex of her life. So just to use the male example, so when I get into the female thing, people don't think I'm just slamming on females. We all have these drivers, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to fall victim to the driver every time. There's a way to channel that driver, that energy, into more productive ways. How we do that is going to depend on how we process the environment and the other parts of our brain. This is why all women have a hindbrain drive to do certain things, and it's pretty savage. Hypergamy is a savage driver. Hypergamy is, if you haven't been watching my other videos, it's a drive for women to constantly level up from where they're at and constantly go for the next best thing. The grass is always greener for women. Okay, so that's what hypergamy is. It was very useful, has been very useful for vetting out and picking out the best sexual options for a female to have babies with. So she's not just having a baby with the weaker male that is not as genetically viable, but she has an attachment to emotionally. She finds the stronger male that's a better genetic option for mating. Hypergamy says have sex with him instead, or have sex with him during ovulation and have his baby. So that's hypergamy, and that's why females notoriously cheat and are notoriously duplicitous about their sexual strategy. And again, it's not an attack on anyone's personal thing here, but this is just the way that it goes. All right, so let's talk about cultural differences though. First of all, you American women, you need to get your shit together. Let me tell you. All right, and I'm just saying in general, certain select individual American women are great, okay, because of a number of reasons. But by and large, women here in the United States do not have their shit together compared to women in Poland. Period. End of story. We're looking at it's a very simple equation. You walk around town, grab a coffee, sit in an outside table, and just watch what goes on around you. Interact with a few women just on a social level. We're not even talking about trying to get picked up on or hit on anybody or anything like that. You will notice a distinct difference with how the females interact with males and interact in their environment in Poland. And that was from everywhere from Warsaw to some of the smaller towns. Like, you know, compare that to how women in the US, and I know different states and different cities are different too, but yeah, there's a fucking problem. Y'all got problems, okay? And there's a reason why you're not fucking happy. So we're going to get into that, all right? Now, your hindbrain driver, though, is the same as a Polish woman, same as a Asian woman, same as anyone else in Europe, okay? It's all universal. Just like my hindbrain drives as a man are similar to men all over the world. There are cultural differences that allows us to embrace certain values and parts of our nature that's more optimal, that makes you optimized for being in a happy relationship, okay? So one thing about cultural differences is femininity, all right? So women in Poland embrace their femininity more. Okay, whereas you have a large feminist movement here in the United States that says that women should be like men. And so women are chasing goals that are more masculine goals, and they're chasing behaviors that are more masculine behaviors. And it's unattractive, all right? It's unattractive because we have hindbrain drivers and femininity, and to a degree some level of submissiveness and level of respect for a male and just different ways of behaving is just more attractive. And this will drive women crazy in the United States, but it's just, you know, you can embrace reality or you can just, you know, ignore reality, and you can ignore reality, but you can't get away from the consequences of reality. And so if you don't understand the reality, embrace it, you're just going to have trouble in your relationships and dating as a female, and certainly you're not going to be you're not going to make your guy happy. And certainly guys who watch my channel and my stuff are going to be instructed to not take it any further with you, okay? Because it's going to be fucking misery. Why would they do that? All right. And so here's what I mean. Just example of, like, all right, so women will get, you know, United States, like, women will be pursuing, you know, masters and a doctorate and career, and they want to make their own decisions, not going to let a man tell them what to do, and blah, 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 and they're going to shit test and be bitchy and naggy, and I don't need a man, and all that stuff, you know, and they're out powerhousing it, and they're out, let's say, going for that PhD. Here's the thing, no guy wants to have sex with you because you have a PhD. Period. End of story. If I meet a woman, she has a PhD, I respect her for the PhD. No difference than I would respect a guy for going for that thing, but it doesn't make me sexually attracted to her, because my hindbrain driver is not attracted to that kind of chasing of excellence and those goals. Whereas for a female, that's not the same. A guy going for goals and things that indicate more resources, indicate more social power, and indicate, just more ability to provision and influence is attractive to females. So guys going for goals, making more money, chasing excellence, that's an attractive thing for females, to see in a guy. But guys really don't care about that when it comes to women, and that'll drive women crazy. And so when they act in all this independent behavior and bossing around dudes and lack of respect and all that shit, it's masculine behavior, and guys are turned off by that. Okay? And so what you're left with as a female, if you're doing that stuff, is weaker ass males that want to placate to your ass while you boss them around. And they'll let you tell them what to do, let you boss them around. Do you know what I mean? You'll always win with those guys, and then you won't be attracted to them. Whereas the masculine dominant male is going to not put up with that shit. There's going to either be a conflict, and there will be a conflict, and then enough conflicts, he's just going to stop having you around, because he can get somebody else who's going to treat him with more respect and act actually feminine around him. Okay, so that was the biggest difference you could just tell, was they embraced their femininity there, whereas a lot of American girls don't. Okay, and then the other part of it was mindset. So they had more of a mindset of gratitude. They seemed to be just more grateful and less entitled. They seemed to understand that they had to show up as the best version of themselves if they're interested in a man. And they had to present just the best version of who they are. They had to be pleasant to talk to, nice, make the guy feel good. I mean, these are things that they understood. Whereas, and they would dress the part, they would they had self-respect. Now, I'm not saying every single woman in Poland, but I'm just saying by and large, you know what I mean? That was statistically speaking, there was more women that had that level of self-respect. They wouldn't go out looking like some of the trash that you see a lot of the American girls going out looking like. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a thing about money. It wasn't about resources, anything like that. They're probably spending less resources on their appearance than American girls are. It wasn't about being fake and putting on cake and makeup on and trying to look like something they're not. It was just about presenting themselves as being the best version. And that's that understanding. If I see one more American chick here in the United States on social media post one more meme about how every girl deserves true love and blah, 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 all the shit that some girl deserves, makes me want to fucking give it a thumbs down and tell them how retarded they are. Of course, they stay away from internet arguments, but you don't deserve anything. You honestly, sorry, ladies, okay, and guys too, you don't deserve a thing. You don't deserve anything by showing up, okay? Just because you show up with, boobs, ass, and a nice face and a vagina, that doesn't mean that the world should stop and give you every provision and every bit of attention. Unfortunately, though, there are so many weak-ass males out there that you could literally be a trash 4 or 5 out of 10 in sexual market value. And guys, there's plenty of guys like in the hundreds that will like and heart and say, hey, beautiful, in your social media, hit you up on your DMs, all that shit. The internet has given you, ladies, a false sense of your sexual market value. You're a 4 and you think you're an 8 or a 9 because you post some well doctored up photo and you're getting all of the attention, okay? And so guess what, though? That social media attention does not translate, as you probably might have figured out, into healthy relationship with a high value man that you're proud of, okay? So that's a lot of unearned praises. Women will walk out the door and get a lot of unearned attention because they're not doing anything other than showing up and being a woman, and they get this attention. And then that's probably universal everywhere, the attention, but there seems to be an understanding among some women, and I'll say United States or Poland, but just higher percentage in Poland, that you can't just show up with a pretty face. You actually have to have a good personality, be pleasant to talk to, and make the person that you're talking to actually feel good about talking to you. Imagine that. Women in the United States like to try to make the person, they don't care about what the person feels like who they're talking to. They don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Then they wonder why high value men ignore them. Okay? You have to show up and you have to be the person that would be able to earn or be in that relationship that you want. You want a high value guy, you have to show up and be the girl who's deserving of it. You're not deserving of it because you just showed up. All right? An internet post about no, you know what? A lot of women don't deserve true love. They don't deserve it because they show up like shit and they don't know how to love another person in a healthy way. And so why would you deserve that if you can't work on yourself and show up and be a person that's lovable and actually learn how to demonstrate and show love to another person in a healthy way? You see, that doesn't quite compute. And guys know this. By and large, dudes know that they can't just show up and get things. Like, you have to actually be a better person to do that. I have to be a good person in a relationship in order for a female to want to be with me long term, right? I mean, that's kind of a thing that we figure out. That's why one of the biggest drivers for guys to work on themselves is because they want to get a chick, and so they're always working on that. But unfortunately with American women, at a larger percentage, they don't work on anything. And so that's an issue, okay? Now, let's look at hindbrain drivers are still the same, but it's a mindset. It's that mindset of, embracing that femininity that's a part of your genetics. You know what I mean? There's masculine behavior that I embrace, and then I behave that way. In our culture here in the United States, it's like there's too many guys that behave like weak little bitches. And I noticed that that's sort of spilling over into other areas of the world as well. You can't show up and act like a woman if you're a man and expect women to be really attracted to you. And similarly, you can't show up and act like a dude and act disrespectful and ungrateful and not act feminine and expect dudes to be interested in you. Okay, so it's a simple universal thing based on our hindbrain drives and our genetics. So you can embrace what's going on with biological drivers. You can embrace those biological drivers, or you could try to socially reconstruct it through movements like feminism and trying to equalize the genders, and you're just going to be unhappy. You're not going to be in relationships that are healthy. It's just the way it is. And I'm not attacking the feminism in the sense of women having equal rights. Of course, women should have equal rights. Of course, women should have the opportunity to do whatever they want. But having the opportunity to do what you want and actually doing certain things are two different things, right? And so you want to actually do the stuff that's going to make you attractive. And guess what? That's not being the boss somewhere or getting that PhD. I mean, those are great goals, and I think you should do that, ladies. But just understand, though, there's other shit that you need to bring, particularly with your behavior and how you treat the guys that are around you. And you guys, if you're not being treated, if you don't feel good, if you feel like you're always having to struggle and challenge and fight with a female, to get her to find value in you, then you need to kick her ass to the curb, because there's plenty of women out there who will treat you different. Maybe they're less in numbers here in the United States, but they're certainly out there, okay? So that's the other part, though. A lot of women in the United States, and I think generationally too, a lot of younger people, millennials and below that, are just very entitled. Again, it goes back to that meme, okay? Like, every woman deserves a man who won't cheat on him and won't. Do you deserve a man who's not going to cheat on you? Really? If you're unfaithful? And if you're a piece of crap and you treat them like shit, no. In fact, I think you deserve actually no man, or you deserve what you get a lot of the times. A lot of these women deserve everything they get. They get treated like shit, they get cheated on. It's because they behave like shit in the relationship. And same goes the way with the guys too. A lot of guys act like shit and then they get what they get. And so you don't deserve any of that stuff. What happens is you have to actually be a better version. And then the last point is values. Now, any country I go to, I can find some slut to have sex with me. Okay, that's a no-brainer and that's easy. However, I noticed in larger numbers that, okay, so there's a lot of women in the United States that will act bitchy, ungrateful, so on and so forth. But then they'll have sex with you though. They'll have sex with you first date. They'll have sex with you within the first hour of meeting them. Okay? But then they'll go back to their bitchy, ungrateful behavior. And a lot of these women cannot be trusted because you're not anything special. You're just another notch count. All right? I noticed that the women in Poland anyway weren't just, I mean, again, I'm not talking about everyone. I'm sure I can find a slut in Poland. That's not hard. But I mean, just by and large, though, the more beautiful women who are pleasant to be around, and this is just from observation even, okay, weren't just throwing themselves out to a new guy to sleep with them necessarily. She had kind of a vetting process. She wanted to know if this guy was a good match or catch, not someone that she would just get drunk and sleep with today and then go back to her boyfriend tomorrow. If I had a nickel, back when I was being a lot more savage, if I had a nickel for every, female that would pick up, meet me at a bar that want to go home with me, and she had a husband or a boyfriend at home here in the United States, well, I'd be a pretty rich man. I mean, it's just no shortage of that. They marry the guy for resources, and they look to get smashed by a guy like me. Well, that's nice and fine and good, but where does that put that female in terms of happiness in her relationships, right? She's probably not very happy with the guy at home if she's looking to get, bukkake choke slammed by a guy with muscles and tattoos, all right? So that's the thing, right? But I didn't notice, at least in as high of numbers, that kind of what we would say, not to slut shame, but slutty behavior, where it was more, they're more open and easy to talk to, but less likely just to go home with some guy, unless, I mean, again, and I'm not shaming anyone who, sleeps with someone after a first date. Honestly, that's fine, if that's what happens. I mean, but it's the reason why it's happening that's important, not so much the act of it, okay? So anyways, I just noticed higher form of values. People seem to value their relationships more. I wonder what the statistics are for cheating and infidelity in places like Poland and certain parts of Europe versus United States. That would be kind of hard to get, probably, but it depends on the honesty on these studies always. That's always a problem, no matter what country you're in. But I wonder what those studies would look like. Okay, so anyways, my point is that, okay, yeah, all women are the same in terms of how their hindbrain works and what drives them. In a long-term relationship, doesn't matter if she's from Europe, Asia, United States, South America, Mexico, Central America, doesn't really matter. You still have the burden of performance as a man. You still have to treat her a certain way that will continually make her hypergamous brain turn back to you and be attractive. Those things will never go away. You still have drivers you have to fight against, and not say fight against, but you have to work with in order to be happy in a long-term relationship. Doesn't matter what country she's from. And for all I know, because I've never been in a long-term relationship with someone from another country, like living in another country, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's more difficult than with a women from Canada or the United States. I'm not sure. But either way, yeah, those things don't change. There are universalities in the drivers for all females. However, there are differences in how women and men choose to show up to the relationship, using those other parts of the brain to steer those drivers in a productive manner, okay? And some simply just show up better than others, all right? So if you're a woman watching this, hit me up privately, disagree, tell me how wrong I am, that's fine, or whatever you want to do, or get some help so you can show up better. show up a better version of yourself. And you guys too, that's kind of the key here. Show up and be a man and be a better version, okay? Your hindbrain drive is no different than the guy next to you, but how you show up, it makes all the difference in the world. All right, thanks for tuning in. Take care.